Lansing City Council to order and ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Councilmember Spatafor.
Present.
Councilmember Hussein.
Here.
Councilmember Wood.
Here.
Councilmember Spitzley. Councilmember Dunbar.
Here.
Councilmember Betts.
Present.
Councilmember Garza.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Quorum is present. Please note that Councilmember Spitzley has requested an excused absence from council obligations today. Next, public comment on agenda items. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak on agenda items? All right, seeing none, we will move on. Our first item is a presentation from Downtown Lansing, Inc. concerning their strategic action plan and recovery programs update. We have their executive director, Kathleen Edgerly. If you want to join us up here, welcome back to Committee of the Whole. What's that? Oh, before Kathleen gets situated, we have the minutes from October 11th, 2021, our Vice President reminded me. Mr. Vice President.
Sure. I would move the meeting minutes as presented.
That is a proper motion. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Now, actually, it was very polite of you to let Kathleen get situated. So, Kathleen, the floor is yours. Tell us what you came to tell us.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. The last time I was here, it was just a few months before COVID hit, and what a wild ride. I've attended several of the meetings on Zoom while you were all virtual, and so it's nice to be back in person this evening. And my pleasure to share with you the state of downtown and our plans for moving the district forward as well. It was no secret, downtown Lansing, like downtowns and communities across the city and the state, have definitely been placed in a state of crisis due to the COVID pandemic and remote working. However, we'd argue that no downtown has been hit as hard across the state of Michigan as downtown Lansing has. We have 30% of all of the state of Michigan workers that were employed and working in our downtown district before the pandemic hit. Our businesses, 50% of which are led by women or ethnic owners, relied on those workers to patronize those businesses. And when COVID hit, they faced an 80 to 90% decrease in traffic and sales overnight. And while some of this traffic has returned, we know that we can no longer rely on that model or on that demographic. It's now essentially defunct, or at a minimum, we need to operate as if it is. We have to implement some real and long-term changes for our city, and specifically the downtown, as we look at a 5 to 10-year recovery effort, is what our board and staff are talking about. So with that in mind, our board and staff, in conjunction with our property owners, business owners, residents, and other input, have been putting together and developing a strategic action plan that focuses more on serving those that live in the downtown district and surrounding neighborhoods that are there 24/7 or at all hours of the day. It focuses on actionable items because we have no time to waste when it comes to the recovery of our city and our downtown, Michigan's capital city, right? So in your packet, and hopefully on the screen to the side of me, we outlined the strategic action plan and some of the strategic steps that we've already taken and kicked off, as well as what we're looking at the next 5 to 10 years. So first, establishing new residential housing downtown with a goal of 2,000 units being developed in the next 5 years. While LEAP and the city are really taking the charge on that at a state and federal funding and leadership level, from our part, we want to work right alongside that and have done so by having numerous discussions and meetings with MEDC and securing their support and in-kind funding to lead a downtown-centric target market analysis for the district. We look forward to kicking that off sometime in the next 3 months. We're going through all the different contract agreements and negotiations on their end that have to be finalized. We also would like to cut our downtown vacancies in half. While the plan right now states 2025, obviously we'd like to do that a lot sooner and are being very proactive in our conversations with the property owners, as well as with small business owners, sitting down with them one-on-one and really talking with them about realistic mortgage and lease rates, especially in this current pandemic market, and what these small business owners can realistically afford moving forward. If you haven't heard, part of that strategy I'm really excited to share was the opening of Middle Village, a micro market retail center that opened just over a week ago at 112 South Washington Square, right next to Cupie's, as many people know it. That right now is part of a holiday market, so we could go through some lessons learned, get the merchants all situated, figure out what their needs were. But starting in the spring, it'll turn into a year-long cohort. Currently, Middle Village is open Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., all retail-centric focus, so we can start to not only work with them, and this will continue through the spring cohort as well, on professional development, training as they build their business model, as they build that loyal clientele, also changing the narrative centered around downtown Lansing about what types of businesses can actually make it in our downtown district, and developing that feeder system for diversifying our business mix and filling those vacancies. Another strategy includes for all of us as staff and a board to really understand the policies that exist in this city and for a variety of our partners while pursuing any necessary policy changes and working with all of you on those in the future. And then, because this is a strategic action plan, we've already updated a couple elements. So one of those updates included developing a really living and true DEI plan, not just words on a paper or on a packet or anything of that, or on our website, but really taking a self-assessment, which we're in the process of right now, and then at our next board meeting, with that self-assessment of who we are as an organization, as well as the makeup of our downtown business district, how we move forward from there, because we know there is a lot of work that continues to need to be done. We are also looking at front filling and upfilling parking, especially those surface lots. Right now you look around, we definitely have plenty of parking downtown, and people don't come to the city for its parking. So we look forward to working with all of you at council and the administration, property owners, et cetera, about how we can better utilize those spaces, if nothing else, for more flexible uses as we continue to navigate the future of our downtown district and the city as a whole. And last but not least, increasing capacity at a staff level so that we can implement the right programming and environment that we all want to see for a successful downtown district, and that downtown Lansing needs and deserves as a community. Next slide. With all of this leading our annual programming and the ongoing efforts that DLI is leading, we have developed an investment plan as well to aid in downtown Lansing's long-term recovery, because the model's broken. Many of you probably already know this. We have to stop relying on our neighborhoods and our downtowns to fundraise for their recovery. We cannot keep doing that. Next slide. So the From the Ground Up strategy really looks at not a charitable giving model, but an investment in the future of our community. We're not looking to simply get back to normal because normal didn't work. It was misused spaces, too many vacancies, and a population that left at 5 p.m. We're looking to reimagine and rebuild, hence the hashtag From the Ground Up, and it's going to take all of us as a community really working together and calling for large corporate leaders and other partners to invest in the future they want to see in downtown and, frankly, all other parts of our city as well. We can control the fate of our downtown and our city as one that's known for its culture, its opportunities, and the activity that we all know and love that it can have at all hours of the day. So some of the programs that are outlined, go ahead and next slide too. In this From the Ground Up strategy, are some revamped programs that we already offered and some that are new. So I touched on Middle Village and the addition of that micro market retail space in the 100 block of South Washington Square, and that has received a 5-year investment commitment already from Lake Trust Credit Union, and we continue to see more investments coming our way, hopefully. Capacity building, also touched on that. It's not just an investment, we view it as a necessity. That'll both help with the aesthetics of our downtown, the promotion of the community, and the recruitment and retention of our businesses. We're also building a small business support fund at $60,000 a year to help bridge the gap for small businesses as they move into vacant bricks and mortar buildings in our downtown. And ideally, some of these would come right from Middle Village. And we're also working with investors to build a downtown revolving loan fund that, again, helps bridge the gap between the smaller private property owner and the small business owner itself to help them see themselves in these spaces, design them for more flexible uses, instead of seeing the large price tag when they walk into a building for any necessary improvements to the interior or exterior. in January, back in January 2020, which seems like a lifetime ago, we launched in partnership with the community bank a rent mortgage support program that we quickly had to shift gears once the pandemic hit to support our existing businesses. And we look forward to working with a new partner on that to, again, continue to help our existing businesses and any new businesses that choose to call downtown Lansing home. And for community space development, this is designed to encourage the community to linger downtown with enhanced community spaces and alleyways, lighting, seating, art, you name it. So that's where we are today. The road ahead is definitely not going to be easy. It's not going to be fast, but we know when we work together with all of you and other partners, working right alongside each other, it's going to happen. So with that, I'll close with, are you down with downtown? And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. I know when you had reached out to come present, I was looking forward to hearing what you all were doing, and I'm encouraged by some of the things that you're doing. They're not basically just coming to council or others and saying, help fund this. It's truly grassroots and trying to make things work for all the businesses that are hit by this. And if anyone's watching from the state, we do encourage the state workers to return back to their offices, but I digress. Are there any questions for Kathleen? Councilmember Wood.
Thank you and good evening, and thank you for being here this evening. As you talk about this aggressive plan, we know that a lot of the funding for downtown Lansing Inc. came from the assessments.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about where we are with the assessments? And the other portion of that was fundraising, and those were events and things that were happening downtown, which haven't happened. So how do you see helping putting this funding scheme together to be able to accomplish these things?
Yeah, so a couple of things. With the assessment levels, I can speak at least since I've been here, they've remained stagnant. We're projecting them to continue to remain stagnant for the next year to 2 years. So we haven't seen any necessarily increases in that funding level. About 60%, give or take, goes primarily from the PSD, and the rest is fundraising to help with salary and maintenance costs. Something that our board, and honestly, through my time in the new team at DLI, have really focused on is less event-driven. COVID definitely just hit the fast forward button on that, and has made us look more at partnerships and where we can all support each other, whether it's an organization such as the Arts Council, an art gallery, Lansing 501, existing businesses in our district. We're not the primary organizers of them, if you will. There still will be some larger scale events, but we're more partnership based. So all of the costs and all of that fundraising isn't just on us for events. We have really diversified through our programming, providing the small business support, and prioritized that. And that's why when I was laying out from the ground up plan, it's more on the small business grants. It's on a revolving loan fund. It's looking at the community spaces and how to enhance those, and less so on events. Promotions will be still a lot of marketing and lifting up those local businesses that exist and any new ones that come on board as well. But for instance, like Silver Bells, having that move with LUTFA has been part of that shift before we came on board, and it will continue to go in that nature. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
And looking at that and the assessments and the cost that has increased with everything across the board, maintenance is one of the primary things that assessment paid for.
Correct.
And the fact that there have been the lack of employees and things that companies have had problems with, do you see any impact that that's going to have with you, and have you investigated that ahead of the winter snows?
We're definitely talking with our maintenance team our maintenance contractor on an ongoing basis about that, and have some concerns. They stop in at least once a week to let us know if there are shortfalls that they're not gonna be able to fill. So I'm hopeful. It looks promising that we shouldn't see issues with snow removal and salting for the downtown district, but we're gonna have to continue to assess that as well, because staffing is a real issue for sure. And the costs continue to increase, but that's one of our priorities that we will always earmark funding for. Well, I shouldn't say always, because we have no crystal ball, but will continue to be a priority for funding.
And what percentage of the assessment goes for maintenance and the other percent that goes for advertisement?
Maintenance is roughly 50%.
Okay.
Promotion right now, if you look at the promotions line item, I'm sorry, I don't have all those numbers in front of me, but it is a much smaller percentage. It normally was 20 to 25. In the last 2 years, we've taken it down to 5 to 8%. And a lot of that is volunteer driven.
Okay. With, how many vacant buildings do we have, storefronts right now? And
That is an ever-changing number, especially with the upper-level offices. I will say we went from the range of 18 to 20% post-COVID to 35% today.
All right, that answers my questions. Thank you.
Any others? Councilmember Dunbar.
Thank you. I feel horrible that I can't see you on the other side of the clock. I want to look at you. Hi there.
Hi.
So, given the parameters, the boundaries of downtown Lansing, what conversations, or are you having conversations with any of the property owners that currently own the least government, when I say least, I mean LEASED, office spaces that are used by the state government? Because there are many, they're going to be consolidating the 30% that come back into government-owned buildings as opposed to the leased spaces that are owned by the Genealosi, Stockwells, everybody else
Right.
that's down there. So what, I heard you talking about the existing mixed-use spaces with first-floor retail and possible retail, but a lot of housing above. What about the very large leased-out government office buildings and repurposing those? What discussions are being held about what we're going to do with those spaces? And are those being considered as part of your flex spaces and in these conversations?
They are being considered as that. Also, too, a lot, because they are such large spaces, being able to fill all of that with more commercial use is going to be challenging, but that is where a lot of the conversations are circling around residential rehab and larger state or federal funding going to support that. And then talking with the property owners, and we don't have firm answers on this yet because I don't think they know fully, but we are still talking about what level of support they would need in order for that to be not cost prohibitive, but actually possible to rehab those spaces.
Sure. Is there any, have you heard, I shouldn't say is there any, have you heard any indication from the state about them consolidating any of the properties that are outside of the city of Lansing back into the city of Lansing? I mean, the charter, the state is supposed to have all of their buildings in the capital, but they don't. And I don't expect that the annex or where the state police are out in Dimondale are going to come back, but there are office spaces in other parts. Have you heard anything about them trying to bring those back to the center core?
I haven't heard anything definitive, and I mean, it's no secret, there's been some change, high percentage of changeover too with some department heads, so I don't know if we'll be seeing those answers soon, but we'll still keep having those conversations.
Okay. And then my final question is, what funding mechanisms have you been hearing about that the state would be putting into helping us with this? Because it is, I mean, it has been such a huge part of our economy, the state government, in maintaining our businesses. So what are you hearing is
I'd
the
love to have a
source of the
concrete
funds and
answer.
how much?
Yeah, I don't fully know yet, but I can say all of the asks have been probably put in between our organization requesting $500,000 a year to fund some of these programs, so we don't just have to rely on private investors. And there is a soft landing for our city as a whole and our district as well. I know there's from nonprofits to the property owners themselves, City, LEAP, et cetera, everyone's trying to find out what numbers are actually going to be achievable and at what level, and we don't have any answers on that yet that I know of.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Kathleen, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Have a good
Good luck
evening.
on all that. And it was nice to be at the grand opening of the, what is it, the Middle Village.
Middle Village.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. We're going to take a minute and let Kathleen get situated, and then we are going to take a look at first resolution on our action list is an appointment of Elizabeth O'Leary as the Chief Labor Negotiator for the City of Lansing. In your packet, you should have a memo from the administration, from the mayor, relaying his intent to appoint Ms. O'Leary as the Chief Labor Negotiator, and then a resolution to do the same, providing council's advice and consent. So I will open it up. Typically, when we have appointments, we ask why you want to be in this appointment, but I think the mayor has determined it for you, so we'll leave it at that, and then just see if there's any questions from the council. We're all familiar with Ms. O'Leary, I'm pretty sure. Welcome, thank you for coming. Are there questions, or this is the first time I've done one of these? Yes, Councilmember Wood.
Elizabeth, I know that this would be an appointment for you, and I know Nick was the labor negotiator in the past, but currently we have contracts that have been ratified and approved by council that is still not up on the webpage, and that the retirement boards have asked for copies of to work on their ordinances, and we still don't have them. Do you have any idea of the timeline if granted this position, that it would be before we would have that information?
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak to the outstanding contracts. Our 214 was in the clerk's office for signature.
Elizabeth, could you double check your mic's on? Is the green light on?
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
I can speak to the ones that are currently outstanding. The 214 agreement should be signed by now, so that will be up soon. It was in the clerk's office last week. The IFF contract, we're still working with the union on that one.
But the IFF was already ratified.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what is the holdup?
We're still working with the IFF on it.
It was ratified. We ratified the IFF.
The status is ratified, is that
Yes, the
correct?
status is ratified. We're in the process of working with the IFF to complete the document.
Complete the document.
And I thought what was presented to council was the complete document. That's the way we have asked that they be presented, since we had such difficulty a few years back with just bullet points that you actually presented us with the changes in the document. So all they had to do was to be put in. So I guess I'm a little, confused here.
That's definitely the case. You do get the red line version of the contract language that will be put into the big book. The big book is, somewhere upward of 100 pages, so you don't get 100 pages worth of documentation of the CBA. But we're currently working with the union to get that finalized. It has been ratified, it's in effect, and that the book will be forthcoming.
Okay, give me an idea what forthcoming means. Week, a month?
I don't have a timeline on that. We're currently working with the union on it.
Well, I know one of the goals that, is actually in the ordinance, that every contract that once it has been ratified and approved by council, we have 90 days from that date to make changes to our ordinances, to make sure that the retirement ordinance is the same as what the ratified contract is. We can't do that, and it puts us in a precarious situation of violating our own ordinances. So, if it means that we need to bring you back and the union back, more than willing to ask the president to do that.
I would like to ask the city attorney to maybe speak in hypotheticals as to what might hold up a final document from being posted to the website. separate from the appointment that's on the agenda. But this is raising some interesting questions that I think a lot of eyebrows are reflecting. If you could speak to that, Joe.
Well, I don't know how much illumination I can shed, but I can come up with, I mean, it'd just be speculation on my part because I'm not involved with this process. So I don't know if it's just word processing. I don't know if they're sorting out key terms, or selecting the final form for the document to be approved. But there can be any of those reasons between the union and the city in preparing a final document.
Mr. President, I would request that we have at our next committee of a whole meeting, understanding what exactly the holdup is, where it
Yeah.
is, and, because again, as you remember,
Yep.
we go through these pages.
Yeah, Joe, I would ask to close session on this topic if necessary, but at least what Councilmember Wood has requested
Sure.
for the 8th of November.
So, Elizabeth,
Are you?
other than 214 and the firefighters contract, are there any other contracts that are not in writing and on the website?
I haven't looked at the website, but the other ones are completed. 214, they open up, or they close at the end of this year, so we need to begin negotiations expediently. 243 expires at the end of January, so we're in the same boat with that.
Okay, I'd like to see copies of all the contracts.
Absolutely.
If you could make sure that we get those copies.
Councilmember Dunbar, you had your hand up, but is your question
Thank you.
answered? You still, go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, as the lawyer that is doing the negotiations, what is the substantive issue that would be changed or negotiated or in any way holding up the publishing of a ratified contract? I guess I always thought that that's the final version. We've approved the final version, and it just,
So let me just clarify, I'm not a lawyer, but you ratify a tentative agreement, which is the meeting of the minds of the parties. So the tentative agreement is deduced into the CBA. So those are two separate things, but you do see the language.
right, so what you're saying is what we saw is not a final agreement. What we
It-
have ratified for years is not a final agreement?
It's a final agreement, it's a tentative agreement of the parties.
Okay,
So then the tentative agreement is deduced into the body of the contract. The tentative agreement shows the changes that are being made in the current contract. It's usually in red line form. Once that's agreed to by the parties and ratified by the union and council, then that goes to HR and we do the word processing. We send it to the union to make sure that they're on board with all the changes in a red line, and then we finalize the document.
okay, so is
Counsel-
the holdup with the union, or is it with HR?
Councilmember Dunbar, I'm not going to stop you from asking your question, but I'm feeling that maybe the administration is dancing around risking an unfair labor practice, and that's why I would encourage us to take this to closed session if we have
Well, I'm not, okay,
questions
so
on the
I would just,
negotiation strategy.
I'm just wondering if the holdup did the union ask for a change, or is it in HR right now?
I think it's in the best interest of the city to talk about negotiations in closed session, if that's,
Like I said, I won't stop you from answering your questions, but we will arrange for a closed session and a further discussion on this with parties involved. The issue at hand is your appointment as the chief labor negotiator.
I would like to have Dan Cohen, who's the president of the IAFF, is there as well. I said.
In our closed
Dan.
session to discuss labor negotiations?
Pardon?
In the closed session?
Yes, it's his contract.
All right. On the subject of your appointment as the chief labor negotiator for the city, though, are there questions on the resolution? We do need a motion.
So moved.
The resolution has been moved. All those in favor, please any further discussion, excuse me. All those in favor, please signify, Councilmember Dunbar?
feel like that we should have more discussion about this. I feel like what we're doing right now is we're putting somebody in place that we want to have the same philosophy about the timeliness of the publication and all of, I mean, I'm hesitant on this one. I almost feel like I would rather table this until we actually have the discussion about the IAFF contract. Yeah, I would like to table.
Motion before us is to table the item. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. We'll table the item till the 8th of November. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
I have to stop looking at the agendas and predicting the end time of the meetings. Next up is the City of Lansing's ward apportionment plan. This is, I think, Mr. Swope is here if he wants to address them. Chris, would you like to join us down at the table you don't usually sit at? As you all know, every 10 years we have to reapportion our city to ensure adequate representation by our ward colleagues. Mr. Swope is in charge of that effort, and it is our job to approve or change or reject his proposal. Mr. Swope.
Yes, so thank you. The Election Commission is dutied by the charter to realign the wards every 10 years following the census. And we did adopt this plan, this proposal that is before you. Under state law, it's the council's duty to make the final determination. We adopted a proposal that would more closely align the wards, but would not fully align them. It is well within the legal requirements. It's actually over a 10% variation is allowed, and we're well under that. Part of the consideration was, number one, with the pandemic that was going on during the actual taking of the census, we believe that many of the student-type population that live in the first ward were perhaps living at their folks' place and things. And so we felt that the first ward, number one, was probably undercounted just based on the timing. And number two, there are a number of apartment complexes that even between the census and now have come online in the first ward. So, we wanted to achieve some balance. A couple of the changes actually accommodates some communications we've had over the past years from voters to make it so that they can vote at polling places that are more convenient to where they live.
All right.
And
So you all have
Right,
in your
that's right.
packet a copy of the map, little description, as well as the population numbers and the resolution. First, I'd entertain a motion to get this in front of us.
So moved.
Been moved by the Vice President. Are there questions? I'll out of courtesy, I'll defer to the ward folks first for questions, and then we'll move on. Yes, Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, Council President. So I'm looking at the map here, and under the notes here, it doesn't say anything about removing from Ward 2 and giving to another ward. I'm seeing it move from Ward 1 to Ward 4 is where it looks like it might be partially from Ward 2, but is nothing being removed from Ward 2?
No, we did not propose removing anything from Ward 2.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The representative from the third ward.
I'm sorry, maybe I misheard you. So I thought what we were doing was we were actually taking some from the east side of South Washington, some from the south side of the South Washington election unit, and moving those into the fourth ward. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're from a small portion from
Yep.
the third ward and a small portion from the first.
Okay, and then with regard to the third, the third shift for the neighborhood off Turner Street, what's happening there?
That is moving from Ward 4 to Ward 1.
Okay, that's what I thought was happening.
Yeah.
And maybe I just misheard. It's hard to understand.
So that, yeah,
Yeah.
so a couple of areas are moving into the fourth ward, and then the fourth ward is giving up some area as well.
Got it, okay. Can you talk just a little bit about the process? Because I'm a little bit confused. So I understand the election commission. I know it's you, I know it's the city attorney and Sharon Frischman. With regards to the actual apportionment plan, is that crafted solely by you and then brought forth to the election commission? They then approve it? How does that
In
work?
practice, that's how it occurred, yes. That's not outlined anywhere, but that I came up with a plan. I discussed it with several folks at different points, different ideas, different thoughts, and then I proposed it to the election commission.
I think the wards are done, madam. Oh, Brandon, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilwoman Wood. I appreciate it. I just wanted to say, Brian, there are a lot of issues in Green Lawn. It's been an area of focus for me for the last year, and I'm excited to pass those on to you and help you out with them moving forward. So we'll have some conversations offline.
Thank you, Councilmember Betts. Councilmember Wood?
Chris, how much discussion, if any, has there been with the affected residents?
Other than past feedback of why do I vote at Elmhurst when I'm a block from 2500 South Washington, type of conversations, there has not been. And just to provide some context for the odd situation that we have this year,
Yes.
we were told, the charter gives the election commission 60 days. And we were told earlier this year, we were told for many, many, many months that the numbers would be released September 30th. But there was also a separate release in, I believe it was October 11th, or right around that date. And there was confusion about whether that was the full release and the September 30th was just more detail on whether or not that August date started the 60-day calendar. And ultimately, based on conversations with attorneys representing different bodies that also have a 60-day deadline, that was determined that that was the release because it had all the detailed information that we needed to do the redistricting. So we ended up thinking we were going to be doing this a little bit later than we were, and then realizing that we had to get it done rather quickly.
I guess my concern is that we're how many days before the election, and you're going to have people
No.
in the fourth ward voting for someone who are going to get switched to the first ward.
Councilmember Wood, it doesn't, oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Then you're going to have people in the first ward who won't have had a chance to vote for their fourth ward representative. And then people in the third ward that won't have had a chance to vote for people in the fourth ward, their fourth ward representative. So I guess, that's part of a concern that I have, and I just want to voice that. I realize.
And that's a valid concern, and that's something that happens, that's going to happen every 10 years. I mean, no matter what, you're going to have the timing lines up that it's going to go into effect with an election that's a couple years after it's adopted.
So here's a question I've got for you. Because it's so many days before the election, and we approve this, and it's approved and goes into effect when? Monday?
No, it is not in effect for this election. People are already voting, and the law is, I believe, it can't go into effect for any election that's within, I believe it's 120 or 180 days. So it will not be in effect for this election. I appreciate you kind of raising that so I can make it very clear. This does not change who anybody votes for on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021. This changes who they would vote for starting in 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, just hypothetically speaking, to fix this hiccup, we would move our elections to the even years, correct? Is that would fix?
I'm not sure that would change the hiccup, aligning the ward representatives to be on the same cycle, all on the same cycle would perhaps impact that, which would be a charter change. I mean, because what
I see.
you're always going to have, at some point, unless all the wards are elected together, you're always going to have, any adjustment is going to mean some people didn't vote for the person that represents them in the ward. But you have that anyway. You have people moving in and out, and you have people moving among the wards. So you always have people who are represented by someone that they didn't have an opportunity to vote for whatever reason. So,
Makes sense.
you know, there's not a lot of ways to fix this. You know, we could go to electing everyone by ward, or, you know, there's lots of different plans. This is the charter we've had for since I believe the 70s. So
78. 78, so.
78.
All right, well, are there questions about this? Further questions, excuse me. Well, thank you for the work on this, and to the
Thank you.
Election Commission as well. We will vote on this tonight as long as it passes committee of the whole. So we have a motion before us to approve the apportionment plan for the wards of the city of Lansing. All those, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Next up is the city council meeting schedule for 2022. It is different than the one that was referred to this committee, so we'll need a motion to adopt the substitute. Mr. Vice President.
So moved.
There is a motion to adopt the substitute. Is there discussion on the substitute? It's different date-wise. The dates are all different than, many of them are different from the one that was referred. If anyone has any questions. Okay, so all those in favor of adopting the substitute but not passing the resolution, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. The substitute is before us. Mr. Vice President, would you move the resolution?
So moved.
Resolution has been moved. All right, so we'll start with this real quick. We're looking at having an organizational meeting on January 3rd, the first meeting of the year where the leadership of the council would be designated, and that's pretty much all that would happen on that meeting. So we'll look at January 3rd as the first one. Following that, Sherry and I talked about second and fourth Monday, kind of sticking to that pattern, avoiding holidays and major commitments. Spring break is one that we never know when that's going to be for sure, especially for the teacher on the council, but there it is. There are 26 meetings on this agenda. We added a final meeting in December for the 12th. Other than that, there is notice that they will be on 7 o'clock as usual for these meetings. And let me make sure, there was one other thing I wanted to make sure we pointed out. Just adopting the budget not later than the third Monday in May. Sherry and I have highlighted the 16th as a target to get it done, but we still have one extra week in case that doesn't work out. Just sort of a note for you all there that was flagged. So that's my summary for you there. Any questions or comments from the rest of council, of the committee, excuse me? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Next item is a grant for emergency rental assistance program amendment, and wanted to just flag this for you. Typically, these would go through the Ways and Means Committee. We got the resolution in time for the packet for this meeting, but the emergency rental assistance program would potentially have run out of resources before the next council meeting. So Jake's here to explain that a little bit, but the good news is we've received more funds, about $16 million more, actually, for emergency rental assistance. The bad news was we were burning through the cash too quickly and helping many residents. That's the good part of it. But we are here to approve an expansion of that acceptance. So, Jake, the floor is yours.
Good evening. So this is us being blessed with a good problem. You may recall during February and March, previously accepting this grant. It is the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance. It affects rental households with income less than 80% of area median income. Originally, we had received award of about $27 million, initially granting us $14 million of that amount. In July, that $14 million grew to $30 million, which was $3 million more than we had even originally anticipated. And at this time, the grant amount is increasing to a total of $46,039,243. And so this is great news. This is going directly into the Ingham County community, direct assistance, rental, utilities. In order to accomplish this, we have engaged in fairly novel financing through the form of a grant anticipation note. Through this method, we have not had to rely on the timing of grant payments, advances, and reimbursements from MISTA, but rather we are able to meet the demand as it arrives to us at a rate of about $1 million wired each week. And so as of a few weeks ago, we have put out $22 million into this community, which is excellent news. And going forward, we hope to sustain that rate through to the end of the holidays. Are there any immediate questions?
Councilmember Wood.
Thank you. You had said Ingham County, so these dollars are not restricted to the city of Lansing?
That is correct.
And so are we acting as the fiduciary for the county?
Yes.
Okay. And are we getting any admin money as
Yes.
acting fiduciary?
Yeah, I believe with the additional $16 million, which that additional amount is all going towards emergency rental assistance, not admin, but we are, of the total grant, we have about $2 million, which is eligible for admin expenses. We have hired a contract worker who is doing an excellent job managing all of these reporting requirements. We have our own staff that is allocating their own time towards this grant. And overall, it's an incredible success. You hear about other communities struggling to get this money out on a timely basis. Lansing is making it happen.
So our
Nice touch.
advisor that we're using is Robert W. Beard Company?
Yep, that is our municipal advisor. And PNC Bank has provided the financing for our grant anticipation note, which notably can't exceed 50% of remaining grant funds awarded to us.
Thank you.
Jake, I don't recall, are there borrowing costs associated with the anticipation notes?
That is correct, and they are eligible under the grant,
Okay.
under admin costs.
Great. Before we move on, I made him sit through the meeting, so I'll ask our internal auditor if he's had a chance to review this and had any issues flagged.
My only concern would be, obviously, the consultant does have a municipal, and it's kind of advise the city on borrowing costs. And
Eric, I'm sorry, could you pull the mic closer?
the municipal advisor has dealt with refinancing other items for borrowing cost. And like I said, as long as he doesn't have a fiduciary duty in making any of those transactions, receiving any of those borrowing costs that might be paid by administrative cost, that would be my only concern. But obviously, I haven't looked at any of that issue, but that would be a concern, just for, obviously, for conflicts of interest.
Okay.
Yeah, Robert.
I didn't hear it, yeah.
He's concerned about the borrowing cost, the fact that the advisor has the ability to do the borrowing
Got it.
and a conflict of interest.
So the administrative cost related to the borrowing goes into the pocket of the person
Yes.
who's negotiating the borrowing.
Got it.
To say there's any proprietary, I'm just saying that, obviously, with this type of thing is, there are different roles that individual's serving with the city. And, the fine line between fiduciary for the city and vice versa. That's the only issue of concern that I've heard from people, so.
Yeah. If I may add some context to that, we have already achieved this financing, so we have received the grant anticipation note. By authorizing us to increase our total borrowing, we will just be adjusting that number. So I do not expect any additional borrowing costs as a result of this vote.
Okay. All right. 2 more questions. Councilmember Dunbar and then Wood.
So with regard to the borrowing, I guess for the interest of transparency, normally when I think of administrative costs, I think of the administrative costs going to the entity that is the pass-through for the money. But you're saying that some of these administrative costs go to Beard?
It would go towards the total cost of issuance of the bond, the bank fees, and without this financing, we would not be having the rates of success that we have. We would not be able to get this money out into the community. I'd be on the phone with MISTA requesting that they accelerate their reimbursement, and there'd be lots of renters waiting for funds that we would not be able to provide them. So every dollar of that is well worth it, and it's a drop in the bucket.
I'm not doubting that. I guess what I'm saying is the role that this person plays, and we know that the person is, the role that they play in this is not a role that the city can do.
In terms of seeking our own borrowing,
I mean, I guess I asked this question during a prior meeting when we were speaking to somebody who was getting a percentage of money from a deal on a housing project that I thought was a little sketch. But I'm wondering if maybe in the interest of transparency, can we talk about how much money does that bond, as far as the costs go, the administrative costs? I know some of them go to, the administrative stuff, but the actual amount that goes into that person makes off of this project, do you know how much that is?
I'm trying to think of the number off the top of my head, but I don't have it. It's something that I could provide to you, and it's less than a fraction of a percent.
Okay, but a fraction of a percent on
Probably
$22
$12,000,
million
I think, if I remember correctly.
Say that again?
I think 12,000, but I might be mixing that up with another financing.
Okay. Okay. And that's a static amount, no matter how much we increase the,
We've already paid it.
okay.
Councilmember Wood.
I would only ask that the internal auditor look at their contract and then track the payments to make sure if there's any concerns that he sees, that he point them out to council.
And I'll reach out to Jake to get that information in the material so I can look at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've heard a lot of feedback too on this program being one of the more speedy in terms of getting the dollars out compared to other cities and other entities across the state. And I know it's a lot of work to do that, so I appreciate that. And there's a lot of residents who are sleeping under their roofs because of that. So thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Yes. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is an adjournment. So absent any objections, the committee stands adjourned at 6:23.